Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, Now let's start with our chapter number 7, which is market structure. Alright, definitions of market. Market is the arrangement that facilitates the buying and selling of a product, service, factors of production or future commitment. It's a place of business transaction. Okay, market ni adalah tempat kita berjual beli. Ada proses jual dan juga beli produk ke, servis, factors of production ataupun kita punya future commitment. Okay, dekat sinilah berlakunya business transaction. Ada berlakunya aliran one tunai. Siapa penjual dan siapa pembeli. Alright. The definitions of market structure is refers to numbers and distribution size of buyers and sellers in the market for particular goods and services. It's an indication of the numbers of buyers and sellers, market shares, product standardization, and ease of exit and entry of market. It also explains the power of a firm in determining the market price. Okay. Market structure ini merujuk kepada jumlah ataupun saiz, taburan saiz pembeli dan juga penjual untuk sesetengah barang ataupun servis. Ia juga satu indikator yang merujuk kepada jumlah ataupun berapa ramai penjual dan pembeli, berapa orang yang menjual dan membeli produk yang sama atau berlainan, jenis produk ataupun produk standardization, macam mana pengkelasan produk itu sendiri, dan macam mana peniaga boleh masuk dan keluar daripada pasaran tersebut. Okey, itu adalah untuk definition for the market structure. There are 4 types of market classification. The first one is perfect competition. The second one is monopoly. The third one is monopolistic competition. And the last one is oligopoly. Okay. These 4 types of market classification will determine their own structure and their own definition because of the size of the market. Apa lagi, macam mana kita boleh keluar dan masuk market tu, siapa yang mempengaruhi, siapa yang membeli. This will classify its own market structure. Okay. The first one is perfect competition. Perfect competition refers to large number of buyer and seller where they are buying and selling identical products without any restriction on entry and exit and having perfect knowledge of the market, such as agriculture goods, product from the agriculture goods. Okay. Perfect competition ni dia ada ramai penjual, ramai pembeli, menjual dan membeli barangan yang lebih kurang sama, identical, tak ada sebarang syarat untuk masuk dan keluar daripada pasaran. Anytime you nak masuk, you boleh masuk. Anytime you nak keluar, you boleh keluar. Dan biasanya, orang yang berada dekat perfect competition ni, dia ada knowledge yang bagus berkenaan dengan this market structure. Biasanya, orang yang tahu selok-belok perniagaan dalam perfect competition. Contoh adalah orang yang menjual barangan daripada agriculture goods. Okay. The characteristic is, the first one is have large number of buyers and sellers. No one can influence the market price of goods, and firms are price taker because individual sales volume is so small compared to the market volume. Buyers and sellers sangat ramai. Biasanya pembeli akan mempengaruhi harga. Sebab penjual tak boleh nak menentukan harga. Firm or sellers are price taker. Kalau orang tawar-menawar, dia kena terima. Dia tak boleh letak harga fix. Homogeneous or identical product. Same product sold in the market could not differentiate the product. Normally, perfect competition, they are selling identical or homogeneous product. Tak ada beza produk yang sama. Kalau si A jual sayur-sayuran, si B pun jual sayur-sayuran. A ada jual ikan, B pun ada jual ikan. Okay. So, itu adalah identical product. Free entry and exit. A new firm can easily enter and exit the market. Siapa-siapa pun boleh datang berdagang, boleh berjual beli tanpa ada kekangan. Okay. So, idea hari ni nak datang berniaga, esok you tak nak berniaga, tak ada masalah. Even you nak stay for a longer period of time pun tak ada masalah. That's free, exit and entry. Non-price competition. Normally, perfect competition, they are practice non-price competition. Apa yang membezakan dia dengan orang lain adalah dia akan bagi free gift, discount or after sales services. Okay. Harga biasanya sama. Kalau dekat sini jual sayur RM2 satu ikat, dekat lain pun jual RM2 satu ikat. Kalau dekat sini ikan dia harga RM10 sekilo, dekat sana pun harga dia RM10 sekilo. Tapi apa yang membezakan adalah mungkin free gift atau discount. Mungkin dekat sini you beli sayur 2 ikat, you akan dapat dia bagi free gift cili. Mungkin dekat sana dia tak bagi. Okay. Mungkin you beli ikan dekat sini harga RM10 sekilo, dekat sini bila you beli dia potong atau bagi diskaun RM1. Okay. Itu adalah contoh non-price competition. Harga sama tapi cara you berniaga yang berbeza. Number 5 is perfect knowledge of the market. Sellers and buyers have perfect knowledge of the market, especially in term of price. Kita sebagai pembeli pun, kita nak pergi beli, kita dah tahu harga ataupun standard harga sesuatu produk tu. Sama juga dengan seller. Dia dah tahu kalau dia nak jual kelapa, dia tahu berapa harga untuk sebiji kelapa dan pembeli pun tahu berapa harga kelapa yang orang akan jual. Okay. So, normally sellers and buyer for the perfect competition, they have perfect knowledge. Perfect mobility of factors of production. Can freely move from one occupation to another and one place to another. Perfect mobility of factors of production ni adalah you tak ada masalah dari segi factors of production. Ingat lagi factors of production. Okay, there are 4 factors of production. Okay, so dia tak ada masalah dari segi mobility of factors of production. Normally orang yang berada di perfect competition, there also absence of transport cost. Dia dekat je dengan pasar ataupun tempat jualan. So, they can work closely with each other. No transport cost should occur. Kita dah tak boleh, kalau kata you berniaga dekat Mekah, you tak adalah bawa barang pergi sampai Kuching. You akan berniaga dekat pasar Mekah. Okay, that is type of absence of transport cost. Dia tak ada. Okay. Price determination. Price taker only and cannot influence the price. The buyer is the price taker. So, kalau orang nak minta tawar atau kurang, so buyer kena negotiate balik. Determined by the industry. Firm, single unit producing goods and services. And industry is a group of firm producing identical goods. Biasanya, diorang akan berpakat sama sendiri buyers ni untuk menentukan harga. So that's why it's determined by the industry. It's not determined by the firm or single seller. Equilibrium price. Points where demand and supply is equal. This one you have to refer back to the market equilibrium. Perfect competition normally akan ada equilibrium price, di mana seller dengan buyer akan dapat satu equilibrium price selepas kedua-dua harga tu dipersetujui. Okay, for short run equilibrium, at least one of the input is fixed. Firm have a fixed price and maximize their profit by adjusting their output. Maximum profit can be determined via two methods, either using aggregate approach or marginal approach. Okay, this one you already learn, you already know how to imagine this one. Untuk short run equilibrium for perfect competition, biasanya at least one input is fixed. Firm akan ada fixed price dan dia akan maksimalkan dia punya profit dengan mengeluarkan produk dengan lebih banyak by adjusting their output. More output yang you can produce, more profit you can produce. Okay. So this one is for the short run equilibrium. Firm in the short run can enjoy three types of profit. Okay. Firm ni boleh dapat 3 jenis keuntungan. Supernormal profit, normal profit or subnormal profit. Okay. This one, kita dah belajar dekat chapter number 6, profit maximization. So, please refer back to chapter number 6. I will not explain too much detail on this one. But, the firm in the perfect competition boleh ada 3 jenis keuntungan. The first one is supernormal, normal and subnormal. Dia boleh untung, dia boleh balik modal, dia boleh rugi. Okay. Shutdown point. Okay, refer back to the chapter number 6. All this information you can get back in the chapter number 6. There's two types of cost, fixed and variable. This one, refer back to the chapter number 5. If the firm can earn price equal to the minimum average variable cost, firm can continue its production. If the firm can't cover the average variable cost, the firm will stop production, known as the shutdown point. Please refer back to chapter number 6. I will not explain much on this part because you already learned in chapter number 6. For long run equilibrium, all inputs are variable in the long run. Adequate time for the firm to make change and adjustment to the production process. It's equilibrium when MR equal to MC. In the long run, firm in perfect competition can only earn normal profit due to effect of SDN. Okay. Untuk long run equilibrium, normally firm akan dapat normal profit or balik modal. Ini disebabkan oleh faktor SDN entry. Okay. Dia tak ada masalah bila-bila dia nak masuk market tu, bila masa dia nak keluar. Okay. Tapi apabila dia rasa dia dah start untuk dapat subnormal profit, dia will exit the market. Okay. Kalau dia dapat normal profit, mungkin dia boleh stay. Alright. Effect of entry. When the firm gains supernormal profit in the short run, other sellers are attracted to the industry to obtain similar profit. Leads to increase in market supply and the equilibrium price will fall. Individual firm as a price taker also have to sell at lower price until no profit is obtained. Effect of entry dia, okay, macam mana dia boleh dapat supernormal, normal dengan subnormal profit adalah disebabkan oleh effect of entry. Disebabkan tak ada kekangan ataupun tak ada syarat untuk masuk ke dalam pasaran ni. Contoh kata, dekat Mekah cuma ada seorang sahaja penjual ketam. Dekat Mekah cuma ada seorang sahaja penjual tembikai. Okay. Apabila seller lain nampak penjual tembikai ni boleh dapatkan keuntungan yang sangat banyak disebabkan tak ada orang jual tembikai, so seller lain ni pun akan masuk juga pasaran Mekah untuk jual tembikai. Okay. So apa akan jadi? Apabila dah ramai orang yang jual tembikai, dia akan cuba untuk turunkan harga supaya dia dapat ataupun dia boleh jual tembikai dengan lebih banyak. Okay. At the end of the day, okay, equilibrium price akan jatuh. Ingat balik dekat chapter equilibrium, market equilibrium, lagi banyak seller, demand lebih tinggi, supply kurang, harga akan naik. Supply lebih, demand kurang, harga akan jatuh. Okay. So, at the end, dianya akan jadi ke normal profit. Dah tak ada untung, cuma balik modal. Jika diteruskan lagi, dia akan jatuh pergi ke subnormal profit, which is dia akan rugi. Ini effect of entry. Contoh lagi satu adalah peniaga durian dekat Mukah. Pada mulanya ada seorang saja yang berniaga durian. So, bila orang lain tengok durian ni laku keras, semua orang beli, akan ada another seller akan masuk ke pasaran tu. Mula-mula dia jual RM20 satu kilo. Kemudian sebab orang lain dah masuk, dia kurangkan jadi harga RM18. Okay. Bila ada lagi seorang masuk, dia kurangkan harga jadi RM15. Sebab dia nak suruh orang membeli dengan dia. Harga lebih rendah. Apabila supply lebih makin meningkat, demand pun makin berkurang, harga akan jatuh. Tengok balik nota chapter number 4, market equilibrium. Okay. So, sampai satu tahap di mana dia dah akan jadi balik modal. Dia beli buah durian dengan harga RM10 sekilo, dia terpaksa jual dengan harga RM10 juga kilo. Sebab dah ramai seller yang masuk berniaga. Okay. At the end, buah dia dah tak laku, dia kena kurangkan harga sehingga RM8 sekilo. Supaya buah dia tu boleh dijual. Masa tu, dia dah jadi subnormal profit. Dia dah rugi. Okay, so that's why dekat perfect composition, you will have supernormal, normal and subnormal profit because of effect of entry. Effect of exit, when firm is losing in the short run, seller who can't cover their average variable cost will leave the market, lead to decrease in supply and equilibrium price will increase, lead to normal profit. Yang ni adalah berbalik-balik. Apabila seller yang dah rugi tu keluar daripada pasaran, apa akan jadi? Supply dah kurang, demand masih lagi tinggi, harga akan naik. Okay, reflect to the chapter number 4, market equilibrium. When the supply is decreased, demand increase, price will increase. Okay, please refer back to your chapter number 4. Okay. The second market structure is monopoly. What is monopoly? Monopoly is single seller. Mono is single, poly is seller. So, yang ni adalah hanya seorang sahaja penjual. Existence of single seller in the market producing a product that has no substitute. Entry of other firm are restricted. Okay, contohnya apa? Sesko, Laku, SESB, apa lagi? Kalau dekat Semenanjung di TNB, Tenaga Nasional Berhad. Kalau untuk negeri, contoh kata adalah syarikat air, Syabat, Satu, apa lagi? Sada, syarikat air Darul Aman, syarikat air Terengganu, syarikat air Selangor, Syabas, apa lagi? Kalau Johor apa? Johor SAJ, syarikat air Johor. Right. So, yang tu adalah monopoli. Orang lain tak boleh masuk sewenang-wenangnya. Dia ada restriction. Karakteristik dia adalah one seller and large number of buyer. Only one seller exists. Ada satu sahaja penjual. No difference between the firm and industry. Tak ada istilah berbeza di antara firm industri. Perfect combination, ada firm, ada industri. Okay, tengok balik nota dia. Characteristic number 2. Product have no close substitute. No substitute for the product sold by the monopoly. If there is any, the monopolist cannot charge the price. Okay. Sebab apa tak ada substitute? Kalau ada substitute, dia dah tak boleh jadi price maker. So monopoli ni salah satu karakteristik dia adalah price maker. Sebab dia seorang je yang berniaga, so the firm has the power to control the price. Restriction on the entry of new firm. No competition because barriers to entry. Orang tak boleh sewenang-wenangnya nak masuk. Sebab apa? Salah satunya adalah kalaulah kata dekat dekat Sarawak ada dua pengeluar elektrik. Satu Tesco, satu lagi TMB. Apa akan jadi? Tiang elektrik banyaklah dekat Sarawak. Satu Tesco punya, satu TMB punya. Kan dah susah. Rumah sebelah pakai TMB, rumah sebelah ni pakai Tesco. Sekejap lagi, dia punya investment nak buat tiang elektrik pun jadi makin tinggi. Sebab dah nak kena bagi dua. Kan? Dah lah modal diorang tu besar. Nak dapat pelanggan pula kena buat macam-macam. So that's why kena ada restriction. Advertising depends on the product. Luxury goods certainly needs advertisement. But for basic utilities, water and electricity, no advertisement required. Air dengan elektrik, basic utilities, biasanya tak akan ada advertisement. Tak perlu pun sebab you memang perlukan benda tu. Tapi kalau produk lain, sedikit advertisement diperlukan. Common types of barriers to entry. The first one is control over raw material. Monopoly status can be retained by having control over the raw material supply. Okay, contohlah kata nak janakan elektrik, you perlu sama ada arang batu, apa orang panggil gasoline or hydro dekat empangan. So if you can control over the raw material, so you can having control for that market. Contohlah kata you boleh control arang batu ataupun hydro or gasoline, which is the main source for the raw material for the electricity. So kalau you dapat control yang tu, you boleh control the market. So ini you seorang saja yang boleh jana pendapatan daripada sumber tu. Kalau orang lain boleh control, so kemungkinan untuk you ataupun firm tu lingkup ataupun bankrupt sangat tinggi. Patent and copyright. To encourage inventiveness, owner of patent and copyright have a monopoly but have time limit. Okay, kalau kita contoh kata you buat satu patent untuk penanaman jagung. So orang lain tak boleh tiru you punya patent, ataupun kalau nak tiru kena bayar. You have a monopoly right to that corn production. Sebab tu kalau orang beli patent dengan copyright ni, dia tak kerja pun, orang lain sewa dia punya patent and copyright, kena bayar. Kita panggil kena bayar, orang panggil apa royalty. Okay. Pernah dengar royalty? That one is under patent and copyright. Number 3, cost of establishing an efficient plant. Natural monopoly when a firm can offer their product at a lower price compared to its competitors. Maksudnya, you boleh tawarkan you punya produk, ataupun firm yang monopoli ni boleh tawarkan produk yang pada harga yang rendah berbanding dengan competitors dia. So competitors tu tak ada pilihan, dia kena keluar daripada market tu. Sebab apa? Sebab dia tak boleh jual dengan harga yang syarikat monopoli ni beri. Maksudnya kalau kompetitor tu boleh beri harga yang lebih rendah, so dia boleh fight, dia boleh lawan syarikat monopoli yang sedia ada untuk berniaga kat sana. Tapi kalau dia tak boleh tawarkan harga yang lebih rendah, biasanya you tak akan masuk pasaran tersebut. government franchise awarded by the government. Okay, biasanya ada setengah company ni dia awarded by the government. So, company lain tak boleh nak masuk sebabkan oleh peraturan ataupun syarat-syarat yang telah dikeluarkan oleh kerajaan. Okay. Demand curve and elasticity of demand. Downward sloping. Before a monopoly set the price for their output, they have to consider the elasticity of demand for its product. Higher price if demand is inelastic, lower price if demand is elastic. Okay. Yang ni kena tengok balik elasticity of demand. Chapter number 3. Okay, for short run equilibrium, it can be determined by the two approach. It's either by total approach or marginal approach. Refer back to chapter number 6, how to determine the total approach and how to determine the marginal approach. Price output determination in short run. The firm in the short run can possibly attain 3 types of profit. Supernormal profit, normal profit or subnormal profit. Okay. Macam mana? Refer back to your chapter number 6, profit maximization. For the long run equilibrium, the firm can only gain supernormal profit. Untuk short run, monopoly boleh gain profit, break even or loss. Sama dia dapat supernormal, normal or subnormal profit. Tapi untuk long run, biasanya firm hanya akan dapat supernormal profit. Perniagaan dalam monopoli structure biasanya menyasarkan kepada keuntungan jangka masa panjang. Bukan jangka masa pendek. Jangka masa pendek dia akan rugi. Kemudian dia akan balik modal and then barulah dapat supernormal profit. Sebab kebiasaannya perniagaan monopoli ni adalah satu perniagaan yang besar. Dia kena invest dia punya modal dengan sangat besar. So that's why pada permulaan perniagaan dia akan rugi. Sebab dia punya total cost sangat tinggi berbanding dengan total revenue. But by time dia punya total cost tu akan jadi berkurang disebabkan oleh total fixed cost dia semakin mengecil. So that's why for the long run dia akan dapat supernormal profit. Monopolies will make all necessary changes to cost as there are barriers to entry and of new firm. Monopolies ni dia boleh buat macam-macam changes dekat dia punya cost sebab dia tahu takkan ada orang boleh masuk dia punya pasaran. Monopolies has greater flexibility in the long run because they can alter the size of their plant to minimize the cost. Okay. Sebab dia punya jangka masa yang lebih panjang dalam market ni, so dia boleh dia ada flexibility yang lebih besar dalam jangka masa panjang. So that's why for the long run dia akan dapat profit yang sangat banyak. Price discrimination refers to the selling on the charging if different price to different buyers for the same good. Condition of price discrimination due to existence of monopoly only can occur if there is a monopoly existence of different market for the same commodity, market divided into sub-market, buyers are not aware of price charged for the same commodity in other market. Okay, price discrimination biasanya boleh berlaku kalau ada perubahan harga di antara barang yang sama. Harga berbeza untuk barang yang sama. Contohnya ada monopoli lain. Ada satu lagi syarikat monopoli lain yang menawarkan harga yang berbeza. Okey. Poin 1 dengan poin 2 lebih kurang sama. So tapi buyer ni tak perasan ataupun is not aware of the price change between the monopoly ni. Okay, mungkin the first firm boleh tawarkan harga pada sesuatu produk pada harga RM10. Mungkin firm kedua boleh tawarkan harga pada sesuatu produk tu pada harga RM9.50. So buyers not aware of the price charged for the commodity in their own or other market. Contohnya macam apa? Saya cakap air dekat Selangor dengan Kedah, mungkin dia ada perbezaan harga untuk harga air. Tapi buyers ni dia tak perasan. So that's why boleh berlakunya price discrimination. Mungkin air dekat Selangor lebih murah air daripada air dekat Johor. Ataupun air dekat Kedah lebih murah daripada air dekat Sarawak. Tapi buyers tak aware. Kan sebab kita tak buat perbandingan. Existence of different elasticity of demand. Higher price if demand in elastic and lower price if demand in elastic. Cost of separating market must be low. No resale. Product purchased in market which offer lower price should not be resold in another market. Legal sanction. Government impose price discrimination. Such as example, electrical tariff for domestic user and commercial user is different. Okay. Yang ni ditentukan oleh kerajaan. Di mana untuk domestic user, rumah apa semua, dia ada tarif yang berbeza berbanding dengan untuk commercial user. Commercial user dia punya tarif lebih tinggi berbanding dengan domestic user. Degree of price discrimination. The first degree is monopolist knows the maximum price the buyer willing to pay. Okay. When the firm charge different price for each unit sold, such as auction. Second degree, product group into blocks and if is charged differently, such as photocopying. The third degree is market divided into many sub-market or sub-groups, and the price charged depend on elasticity of demand. Degree of price discrimination pun ada 3. The first one is auction. Contoh kata harga suatu barang tu RM20,000 je, tapi disebabkan oleh auction, monopolis boleh tahu berapa maximum price buyers willing to pay. Mungkin boleh jadi sampai 40 ke 50 ribu sesuatu barang. Disebabkan apa? Disebabkan oleh the willingness of the buyers to pay. Second degree ni adalah contohnya photocopying. Okay. Untuk satu saiz A4, A3, A2, A1, okay, harga akan dicas ikut kadar yang berbeza. Walaupun produk tu dihasilkan dalam satu kertas kertas foto yang sama. Third degree adalah disebabkan oleh market tersebut dibahagikan kepada beberapa sub-market atau sub-group. Okay, this is the comparison between perfect competition and monopoly. For the characteristic, long-run equilibrium, price and quantity, and also efficiency. So, this is quite a summary for the perfect competition and monopoly. Number 3, monopolistic competition. It's a market structure in which a large number of small sellers sell close substitute products. Goods produced and so are different but close substitutes. A combination of perfect competition and monopoly, such as shoes, chocolate and toothpaste. Okay, faham baik-baik Dia adalah satu market structure yang mempunyai sangat banyak number of small sellers. Banyak sellers yang bersaiz kecil ni menjual produk yang lebih kurang sama ataupun dia ada substitute. Okay, contohnya kasut. You ada kasut daripada Bata, you ada kasut daripada syarikat apa lagi? Syarikat kasut yang lain. Okay, so kasut tapi ada pelbagai ataupun ramai seller. Coklat, macam-macam jenis coklat you boleh dapat. Okay, so you ada large number of small sellers selling a very close substitute product. Macam Maggi, apa lagi? Air, kan, air dantin, air dalam kotak, apa semua. Toothpaste, ada Dali, ada Colgate, ada Al-Mu'min lah, apa semua, macam-macam jenis. Okay? Sensodyne, macam-macam. Okay. Monopolistic adalah combination between perfect competition and monopoly. The characteristic is large number of sellers, but less than in perfect competition. Dia banyak, tapi jumlah dia kurang daripada perfect competition. Size of each firm is small. No price maker. Tak ada firm yang boleh buat yang jadi price maker. Differentiated product, firm produce goods which are differentiated also close substitute. Produk dia berbeza dari segi packaging, design and labeling. Tapi ianya lebih kurang sama. Free entry and exit. Unrestricted entry and exit, but not as easy as in perfect competition. Walaupun dia free entry and exit, dia taklah semudah dalam perfect competition. Non-price competition. Dia tak ada price competition, tapi lebih kepada advertisement, promotion and discount. Yang ni kita tengok contoh kata Maggi dengan Mami. Macam mana dia punya advertisement, macam mana dia punya promotion, macam mana dia punya discount untuk menarik minat orang membeli. Dia bukan buat price competition. Selling cost. Each firm incur different selling cost including advertising and billboard. Selling cost dia juga berbeza bergantung pada dia punya cara dia punya jualan. Macam mana dia nak meningkatkan hasil jualan. Demand curve is a downward sloping due to product differentiation. Each firm produce close substitute, so this means that the demand is monopolistic. Competition is highly elastic. More elastic than monopolies, but less elastic than perfect competition. Dia ada tengah-tengah. Each individual firm demand curve is indicating the customer taste and preference on their product. For the short run equilibrium, each firm has their own individual demand curve which is different from other firms. In order to gain maximum profit or minimize their loss, monopolistic firm compares its MR and MC. In short run, firm can earn supernormal profit, normal profit and subnormal profit. Dalam short run, firm ni boleh dapat supernormal, normal dengan subnormal profit. Okay, this one you can study it by yourself sebab kita dah cover dekat chapter number 6. Also for this one, normal profit and subnormal profit. Okay, for line equilibrium, firm will have sufficient time to make change to production. The equilibrium point is also referred as a MR equal to MC. But for the long run, firm only earn normal profit. Okay, sama macam monopolistic, long run dia akan dapat supernormal. But for the monopolistic, dia akan dapat normal profit sahaja. If the firm is making supernormal profit in the short run, this will attract more firm to join the market. Konsep dia lebih kurang sama dekat perfect competition. Kalau you dapat untung, orang lain akan masuk pasaran tersebut. So, apa akan jadi? In the long run, you akan dapat normal profit. Okay. Apabila makin ramai sellers masuk dalam market tersebut, apa akan jadi? At the end, you punya profit will be eliminated. Ataupun you dah tak dapat profit, you will only get normal profit. If the firm is earning subnormal profit in the short run, firm cannot cover their AVC unless the market. And this will reduce the output. As the output decrease, the price will increase and loss will be minimized. Konsep dia macam saya terangkan tadi dekat perfect competition. Apabila dia merugi, dia akan keluar daripada pasaran tersebut. Apa akan jadi? Demand tinggi, supply kurang, harga akan jadi naik balik. Then, from the subnormal profit, firm tu akan jadi dapat balik dia punya normal profit. Okay. Monopolistic versus perfect competition. Their similarities is a large number of firms, freedom of entry and exit, profit maximization. During short run, the firm can earn supernormal, normal and subnormal profit. But in long run, firm can only enjoy normal profit. This is their similarities. Okay, this is summary for the panggil apa? Summary for both perfect competition and monopolistic. Okay, cover for the price determination, product, demand curve, and also selling cost. This one is more to the differences between perfect competition and monopolistic. Alright, the last one, oligopoly. What is oligo? Oligo refers to the more than two. Few firms in the industry producing either identical or differentiated products. Entry of new sellers are difficult or impossible. If only two firms exist, it is known as duopoly, such as cigarette, automobile, television, cement, petroleum, and etc. Okay, oligopoly ni biasanya more than two. Tapi dia tak ramai sehingga pergi ke monopolistic or perfect competition. Sangat susah nak masuk, sangat susah nak keluar. Normally, entry of new sellers are difficult or impossible. Susah. Karakteristik dia adalah few in numbers but large in size. Numbers of seller is few but the size is very big or large. Number of firm is small but size of each firm is large. Market share of each firm is large enough to dominate the market. Homogeneous or differentiated product may be either same product or different product, so such as car and petroleum. Okay. Produk yang lebih kurang sama, kereta. Kereta, Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Proton, Pro2, semua ada kereta tapi dia produk is differentiated. Berbeza. Azia berbeza dengan Saga, Saga berbeza dengan Civic, Civic berbeza dengan Corolla. So, dia jual produk yang sama tapi berbeza. Mutual independence. A firm in oligopoly always consider reaction of rivals when choosing price, sales target and business policy. Because the number of firms in the market is small. Barriers to entry. Restrict the new entrant because economy of scale forced to merge. Okay. Dia ada barriers to entry sebab nanti boleh menyebabkan this economy of scale. Kalau terlampau ramai firm yang buka untuk menjual produk yang hampir bersama, dia boleh menyebabkan this economy of scale ataupun syarikat yang akan rugi. Price rigidity and keen demand curve. Explain the behavior of an oligopoly firm. We have no incentive to either increase or decrease the price of its product. Assumption of keen demand curve is if an oligopoly reduce the price of his product, his rivals will follow and raise their price too, so as to avoid losing customers. If an oligopoly increase the price of his product, his rival will not increase the price but instead maintain the same price, thereby gaining customer from the rival firm who increase the price. Okay. Biasanya harga dia tak berubah, tetap je. Contoh kata petroleum. Kalau dekat Shell harga dia RM2 1 liter. Dekat Petronas pun harga RM2. Dekat Esso pun sama, Mobil pun sama, BHP pun sama. Okay. Kalau Shell naikkan harga produk dia, apa akan jadi? Yang lain akan kekalkan harga. So, orang dah tak akan pergi beli dekat Shell, dia akan pergi beli dekat Petronas, BHP ataupun yang lain. Tapi, kalau Shell turunkan harga petroleum, syarikat lain pun akan turunkan harga. So, tak akan ada benefit. Sebab tu, harga untuk petroleum ataupun kereta, harga dia lebih kurang sama, dia tak akan turun ataupun naik. So, that's why their price will be rigid. Kalau dia naikkan harga, dia akan hilang customer. Kalau dia turunkan harga, syarikat lain pun akan turunkan harga. So, So, tak akan dapat benefit. Okay. So, this one, boleh baca je. Dah faham apa itu Keene demand curve. It's a demand curve faced by an oligopoly. It's assume that rival will match price cut but ignore the price increase. Kalau dia turunkan harga, yang lain akan turunkan harga. Tapi kalau dia naikkan harga, syarikat lain tak akan naikkan harga. Itu is concept for the Keene demand curve. Okay. It's also the same thing. You can read it by yourself. Okay. Price leadership model. It's a dominant price leadership where the price set by the leading firm who are larger in the size and economically powerful, able to predict future market price accurately. Others have to follow. The second one is barometric price leadership. Does not necessarily initiated by the leading firm. Any firm due to reasonable cost will announce price change and will follow by the others if the cost is rising. Okay. Yang ni adalah dua konsep. Siapa yang akan menentukan harga? The first one is dominant price leadership. Biasanya firm yang paling besar dia akan menentukan harga pasaran. So another firm akan ikut je. Second adalah barometric price leadership adalah mana-mana firm tak kisah besar atau kecil, dia boleh suggest harga pasaran due to reasonable cost dan harga ni akan diikut oleh another firm. So ada dua konsep price leadership model. The first one is dominant, the second one is barometric. Cartel, group of firm who objective is to limit the scope of competitiveness in the market. Formed by firm who wish to eliminate uncertainty and improve profit by stabilizing market share and price, reduce the competitiveness and cost, such as OPEC, where it's acting as a monopoly and sometimes can be successful and sometimes can lead to failure. Cartel ni lebih kurang macam satu pertubuhan untuk menjadi orang tengah di antara pengeluar-pengeluar ataupun firm. Contoh kata untuk syarikat minyak, dia lantik satu OPEC. Okay, find what is OPEC. Dia akan lantik OPEC ni akan menjadi orang tengah di antara semua pengusaha minyak untuk mendapatkan kata setuju. Sometimes dia akan bertindak sebagai monopoli. So dia akan dapatkan kata setuju daripada semua syarikat untuk harga jualan apa semua. So semua syarikat kena bersetuju. Right, that one is concept of cartel. Alright, so that's all for the chapter number 7, which is market structure. After this, I will proceed with the chapter number 8, which is our last chapter for the AGR 113. Alright, so thank you so much and see you next time.